All right, welcome back. We're working on Gem Wars. The first thing that I want to do is I was testing the game last night and I ran into a problem where I had multiple lines that were captured at the same time, and that was not being reported correctly from the server. So I'm going to duplicate that right now. Now, I may just change all the pieces to be a certain type to make this easier on me. Here you can see everything starting up. It's reconnecting to the current game. And that works great. So we're going to abandon our game. Let's go fix these things. So on my this one, so on my reconnecting panel, abandoned game panel, which is called a notification panel, I also want to set my button one text.text to be equal to abandon and button two text to be cancel. So now when we run the game, you can see that now we have abandoned our game, so we'll do an open play. And what I need to do is I need to set this up to get lines in two directions. Shit, I didn't mean to get that. Let me do another game here. One thing I want to change now is we're going to make this easier to work with. So on the server side, I'm going to change my get piece in drawer. And I'm going to say that this piece also is going to be a piece SOs dot first or default X, where my piece type is equal to a duo. And I'm going to add a comment here called Rob remove here. We'll run it again. and we'll give it a run. Let it log into the server. And now what I want to do is the open play. This time it should be much easier to set this up. All right, so here we go. We want to see that both of these lines get destroyed at the same time. Ah, it did work fine. Okay, so that's great. Now, we're going to make a new panel here. And I want to call this a we're going to call this the loading panel, and I want to add on here a public text mesh pro u GUI called text. And then I want to have a public virtual void init, which I'm going to have as a public enum loading panel type. And you're going to have one for reconnecting to game, or you want to have one called fetching game new. Okay, and so you're going to switch on your loading panel type, and this one's going to say text.text equals reconnecting to your current game. And otherwise, if it's fetching a game new, it's going to say creating your game on the server. Please wait. Okay, so in here where you're using your loading panel, we're just going to call this set loading, and we're going to have a loading panel type. And then we're going to do a loading panel script dot init of my loading panel type. And that should do it. So in your title manager, where this is This is going to be set loading, and this one's going to be a reconnecting to game. Where you are clicking your load next scene, you're doing this fire scene change event. So in your title manager, we have an on scene change event, which is going to send and request this. So in my title UI script, I want to have here a set loading. And this is going to be fetching new game. Now, this only happens when you're multiplayer. So in my title script, we want to do a UI title UI script dot set loading to be fetching new game. Same thing for practice. It doesn't look like I have anything for battle yet. Okay, so now when I run this, it says that I forgot to set the reference, which is correct. Reconnecting to your current game works. Now, if I was to abandon this and start a new game, and now I do open play, creating your game on the server, please wait. Back over here on this loading panel, I'm going to change the script maximum size to be 64. Okay, so that's done. So we want to also, on my title UI script, where we're setting this game here and this action container. Action container is going to need a script. So I'm going to create a new class here called action container script. And we want to say that this is a public class, which is a base mono behavior. And we want to change the namespace. And in this, we're going to have a public game object for my battle button, a game object here for my practice button, and a game object here for my free play button. public virtual void init. I can just do this actually in a start and use the default Unity function here. And we can say if my global manager.isOnline, then you want to say battlebutton.gameObject.set active to true. You also want to do that for your practice button. Let's go ahead and do this, because we're going to also have this one, which is now false. So on the title UI script, I can call this a action container script. And that's it. Okay, so that built. So back in Unity. Hey there, Legend Studio. How are you doing? Welcome to the channel. Let me show you. I have two base mono behavior types. The first one is called mono behavior SO. This has a generic which tapes in a type of scriptable object. So for example, if I have a piece mono behavior, then it could have a piece scriptable object attached to it, and the scriptable object would be created on the server. In base mono behavior, I have a onDestroy function that makes sure that it shuts down all the coroutines in a try-catch and disposes the object. So this way I can be sure that my disposals, which are on every single one of my base mono behaviors, all my resources are being disposed when the objects are destroyed. Additionally, I have two helper functions, one which rounds vector2s to whole values. Same thing for vector3, only without modifying the z position. And then finally, just something that references a static class to put an object into a pool. And that's so I can call it directly on the object. Howdy, Legend Studio. Welcome. Hey, Merrick MH, how are you doing today? Welcome to the channel. Why are you calling your script with the script word? I call my mono behaviors scripts, okay? So I have like a practice UI script, UI get ready script. And that means that that's a mono behavior, because I also have these scriptable objects. So draw piece SO stands for scriptable objects. And then I also have a DTOs class, which is data transfer object for the objects that I'm transferring back to the server. That's here in my backend in a separate library file. You can see I have a number of these different DTO objects, and this class library is exported as a DLL. It builds directly into the Unity directory, so I can use the models across both apps. Thanks for your questions. Okay. Cool stuff, says Legend Studio. Thanks. Yeah, we're getting the multiplayer all set up right now. Everything is being generated on the server now, which is really nice. Title UI script, why is that here? Looks like I moved it by accident. There we go. Okay. So now when the game starts, if we're online, oops, it's not going to work right. Hold on. We need to open up this asset and change my action container script to be actions. And on this, we want to have my battle button, my practice button, and my free play button. And then reference that here. Now it should work. You can see it's connecting me to the current game. If we abandon the current game, it kicked me back here, but it never turned off my panel. So in the game script, when we load my title UI script, you do have your loading panel there in init, but we can just do a protected virtual void start and just add all of these here. Okay, let's try it again. Cool. So now you can see it's only showing the 2. It should be showing all 3 because we're online. So in my action container script, is online is true. And that's happening here in the start. So we don't want that. We want that here within a init as a public. And then from the title UI script, when we set this here, we want to say action container.init. Maybe you need to be on enable instead of start. So what the problem was, and I apologize I didn't say it out loud, was just in my action container script, this global manager is online resolves because it's done asynchronously. It takes a little bit to authorize with the authentication server, download the first payload, and then connect to the TCP server. So at that point, when start is initialized, global manager is off. Is online is not. It's false. So it's defaulting to this. So I actually need to invoke in init once global manager has had a chance to resolve. Also, I'm not sure about your God object script global manager, even if it's a singleton, maybe practice to use some DI like Zenject. I don't really know how you can use DI in Unity. You're still going to have to create instances of your objects and then inject them. The way that I've traditionally made games in Unity is that I use a global manager, which holds very little state information, that has a singleton that persists between scenes. This just has one variable ultimately on it, which is called isOnline. And that's used throughout the application, which is why I feel pretty good of having that as a static. The other place that I have a static is my data cache. And this represents data that's pulled off of the server that I want to persist through the application lifetime. Aside from that, everything is managed from the game manager down. So for example, if I look at my base manager, you can see it's just got a reference here to pool manager. I'm sorry, to a prefab manager, and then it looks like I also have pool manager as a static. So these are only used in a few places, but I try to keep everything wrapped into the stack as opposed to on the heap. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm using static event handlers, which I find to be extremely powerful. So I have static events here and static events which are invoking them. And then that way I can be in any one of my classes throughout the application, and I can fire events that then I don't need to cascade through the whole stack. Hey, A Fallen Hope, welcome back. It's good to have you with us. How are you doing today? Okay. All my games are built with a single scenes now. Avoids load screens and keeps things simple. I have just a couple of scenes. I have one for the title, and then I have one for online, offline for each of the different game modes. And I'm doing that because I have my managers, which are, there's like a generic version of them. Base game manager. And so I have overloads for all these different functions, whether you're online or offline. So that way the logic is like static throughout the app, but for each one of the different circumstances, you have different overloads, like this start scene method. Okay. So let's test it one more time. When we're online, it works fine. And then when we switch to going offline, oh, not a problem at all. Legend Studio, that's one of the reasons I stream this stuff. Okay, and now if I was to disconnect from the back end, I should see a reconnecting screen. This thing will continue to pool until it can reconnect. I don't have a cancel to get out of that at the moment. And if it can't log into the server, it'll tell me, would you like to reconnect? If I want to play offline, it looks like it never clicked init on that. So in Gem Wars, on my title UI script, let's look for everywhere where this loading panel script is being used. This action panel, action container is being used. Right here. Action container.init. Now it should work. Perfect. Now it's working the way that we want. So what we want to do now is make sure that my scores are being captured on the server. So if I look at PHS Gem Wars here, when I'm creating this base game manager, we have the generic where we convert BLL to VM here. So when I convert my business logic layer version of the game to a VM, this one, this is for single player. And I'm going to move this logic into the individual classes to clean it up, but we'll do that a little bit later. What I'm looking for is scores. And that gets set on a match player. Which is being defined in here. Match players with a VM. Here, my match players are being defined when we're converting them to a VM here. So we're passing our match players across. So on the front end of the game, where I have my title manager, we want to look for the, really I only have token DTO in here now. I could probably move this, but we'll leave it for now. In here, where I'm looking at my base UI, and we have a on set text boxes. You're getting this from this number of points. Now your score points can get passed around. So at the moment, you're holding the scores on these individual match player boards. So I want this to be, if my global manager dot is online, we want to do one thing, otherwise we want to do this. And I want to return here my score points dot quantity. So anytime that there's an action that generates points, we need to pass that across. So for example, if I look at my generic here, where I have a play piece asynchronous, I want to pass in here that new score, right? So you have a match player board in here. You have rewards in here. And then you're creating lines. Just a second. Because everything can be determined Hey Crystallizes, welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you with us. How are you doing today? See, because I want to use this new score points object. So if I look at my match player boards, here's where you have add move, and you're changing your currency event, and you're adding the move here, which is how you're going to capture your points, which is an aggregate of each of your actions. Okay, so what I think I can do is we're going to cheat a little bit. And I'm just going to do this. And we want to add this to my score points dot quantity. And the reason why this is going to work is because I'm only now passing score points in the beginning, which will be for any of the older. Okay, so I also want to look at my game player SO. I was hoping for the Adele continuation for the, what do you mean? What's Adele? What, Adele? I'm doing good. How are you? I'm doing great. I don't understand what you mean there. Tell me more, Crystallizes. Okay. And so in here, you now have this number of score gems, which I don't really need. But I am instantiating it here. And I also want to get this from my score gems of my type gem type. Okay, let's give that a try. Oh, the song Adele, Hello, starts with hello, it's me. Now I understand. All right, let's give this a whirl. We'll start at the back end. Start up the front. Let it log in. Okay, it started. It's going to create the game. I want to fix that in the data access layer. This will reconnect until it connects. We need to add a reconnecting screen here. When it reconnects, it should bring the game back from Mongo. Now it's connected. You can see it is back from Mongo. We now should have our pieces back to normal. Let's get some points. So now I have 1 gem and 290 points. If I was to close and reconnect to it, now it's reconnecting. It didn't bring in my new scores. So let's check to see what's happening on the back end first, where we are requesting a game single player. Didn't fire on the back end. Because it's not a new game. It's an existing game, so it's here. Okay, when I look at the game, I want to look at my game players. We should have we actually want to look at this one, GVM. If I look at my game players, we have a score gems on the game player, and on the rounds, match sets, matches, match players, score points, we have 0. So it's never registering here. And on the game player, it's never registering there. So when we are disconnecting, I thought I had a, it's got to be in the generic. On connection, I want the disconnected one here. It tries to get out the game. If it can, it sets the connection, and then it stores this in Mongo. And this is here. This is what's converting your BL here. So let's check it again. Okay, so here it is. If I look at my game, and I look at my player, my game player, if I look at my game SO, no, sorry, it's a rounds, match sets, match set current, match players, number of points is 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to restart the game, try it again. What's going on? Let me try that again. Okay. And now we try this. It's connected to the matchmaking server. It's reconnecting to my game. There it is. We're going to cancel the game. Why is this storing the game in Mongo? because we only want to store it here and here. And then also you want to do a await data access layer Mongo database, delete the document here called a game bll.gamedto.id, and it's called games. And we need to specify the document as an A. It wants that to be on the VM. So this is a game bll.convert. This will be a convert BLL to VM of my game. So this is a game VM, and all we're going to pass in here is a game bll.gamedto.id. There we go. All right. Let me check something again here. Hey there, Kai Hamid. Welcome to the channel. This game is a multiplayer game, sort of similar to Tetris, although it's got an 8-person player versus player ladder. There's a demo of the game which you can play. It's only single player though, which is available up at my website. It's an older build, but it will still work for you. And then it's going to be going up for beta on Android and iOS in the next couple weeks. So if you're at all interested in being a beta tester, please let me know. So let's go ahead and reconnect this. Okay, and then, nice, says Heyo. Okay, Kayo Hamid. Let me know if there's any feature requests that you're interested in or anything that's missing from the game that you can think of, because if I'm missing anything, I need to add it in now. I'm just about ready to do the matchmaking layer, and we're finishing up the single player game, so we got a little bit of work still. I'm going to do open play just to test it. All right, so we want to get some points here. So right now we're storing the game in Mongo. If I look at my VM, my game player should have 1 gem. They don't. So here, when we play the piece, this is all the stuff that happens after we make our transaction in the database. So I want to say action drawer play piece dot, is this where lines are? Yes. So if I look at this lines object, it has a line DTO. That's not what we want. I want the this play piece response, which is this. So you do have rewards here. But what I want is that object that's got a list of blocks in it. Play piece response. Line VM has a number of lines in it. So we want to do a for each var action. We're going to say line and action drawer play piece dot lines. That's going to have my blocks in it. Now, when I look at my business logic layer, it's like inverse Tetris. Very funny. It'd be nice if I could rotate the pieces. Yeah, I was thinking about adding items that you, like an item that you could purchase in the shop that would allow you to rotate a piece, something like that. But actual rotations, I wanted to leave that out. It kind of makes the game a little bit more strategic. So this one, if I look at my models for action drawer play piece, your points are a summation of your rewards plus the points for the gems but you get points even for just playing the piece here. Now this thing is a BLL or is it a VM? It's a VM. Damn it. This is where the action is getting created, right? No, the action gets created here. But it's never creating this play piece BLL. It's here, play piece actions. And you put this in the match player board. So I could do a match player board dot moves. And I want to get the first one where these are just BLLs, so I want to get of type action drawer play piece BLL. I don't want to do this instead. It could be something like a bonus score. If I get X scores, I could use it to rotate a piece. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. So instead of this, when I convert my game player we're doing it here. And we're doing it here. This number of points should be aggregating everything. So when I play this again, okay, we're going to end this game, make a new one. Okay, we're going to try to get some points here. Now we actually have some points. So here if I look, my number of points is 80. So now my match VMs has these number of match players, which has a score points of 80. And if I look at this in Mongo, yeah, we don't need to. There's too many games in there. I'm not sure what this is waiting for. Is my backend not working? Is that what's wrong? Is it hung up? I'm going to restart the backend, and I also want to see the other direction of this. So on connection, connected, or whatever it's called. We're going to add this in here. It's interesting that didn't go away. Okay, it's reconnecting. Now we're going to look at my game again here. If I look at my round responses, match sets, matches, match players, score points, I have 40, which looks right. So now when I convert my game BLL here, and I look at my match players, my number of points is 0. So in here, where I'm creating my match player, we're never passing in the number of starting points here. Okay, we're going to look at where it creates these match player boards. Okay, here it is. I'm going to have to do it again. I skipped right past it. Okay, we're going to look at my match players. I'm going to get a match player board because we only have one board. It doesn't have any moves on it. That's what's wrong. So, all right, I'm going to take a short break. Actually, let's do one thing before we take a break, just for fun. I want to start this. We're going to try a single player practice game because we haven't tried one of those yet. So we're going to try this practice versus AI. And now, these moves are coming from the server. And there you can see that we're having a successful game here. Now these values are what needs to come from the server right now, which is not happening. It looks like it's serializing halfway correctly, but then not back because it's not storing those moves. But we're nearly done with this task, which is really nice. So we're going to just take a short break. We'll be back in 15 minutes. When we come back, we're going to finish this up. I'll see you guys in just a little bit. Thanks.